The hills and valleys, rivers and streams of the Appalachians have always held a splendor and wonder that has captured the imagination of visitors and residents for many generations. As Bob Denver so eloquently said, life is old there. Many lives have started and ended in the rugged embrace of these hills. And with those lives have come many stories and legends concerning them. This oral tradition, while perhaps not as strong as it once was, is still alive and well to this day, providing many thrilling tales, both adventurous and tragic. It is one of these tragic tales that I had the privilege of hearing from a friend about a warm summer night many years ago. This story begins when my friend was young, only 8 or 10 years old. He and his father spent most summer weekends camping and fishing. The weekend this story takes place was no different than most. They planned to spend the weekend walking and fishing the Bluestone River, camping for 2 nights and returning home the 3rd day. As far as weekend excursions go, this one was very typical and garnered no special attention. They gathered a few supplies into their well-worn packs and headed out on a warm Friday evening. Parking their vehicle at a friend's home, the two began the first leg of their journey. Since it was high summer, the evening seemed to stretch on forever. Their walk was a very pleasant one, and my friend spoke at length about his memories of the walk. The drone of insects stood out to him, the smell of earth and leaves on the ground as he described, the perfect scent of the outdoors. He spoke of his wonder at passing through tunnels of green where the rhododendron arched across the path, creating a passage of leaves and large flowers. Their camp was a simple affair with no tent or other such structure. They carried each light tarp in a case of rain, and their blankets were spread out in the open. Between them would be a small fire, but that would burn down to embers early in the evening. Night comes quickly under the trees in the river valley, and soon darkness reigned over the land, and the insects and forest creatures held their noisy court from the stones. Soon, the two put away their fishing tackle and took to their blankets, their full day and vigorous evening walking catching up with them. My friend spoke at some length about the way the night seemed to be pressing on this evening. Being no stranger to the outdoors, even at this young age, he knew that the night held nothing that was not there during the day. But this night, he remembered, had a more sinister feel, a heavy, oppressive feeling that he could not shake. Eventually, sleep overcame him, but his rest was troubled and soon ended. He awoke to a much cooler night than when he first fell asleep. The fire was nothing but glowing embers, his single blanket doing little to fight off the chill in the air. As the last vestiges of the fitful sleep fell away from his mind, he saw that his father was already awake, staring across the river. When he reached for a light, his father held out his hand, stopping him. He told me of how the light from the dying fire gave just enough illumination for him to see his father's arm and hand while the rest of his form was shrouded in darkness. His father then motioned for him to come sit with him, which he willingly and quickly did. Once nestled in his father's arms, he followed his gaze across the river, his attention quickly pulled to a light, slowly moving up the far bank. It was a yellow light, like from a flame. It flickered and bobbed, sometimes vanishing and reappearing further up the river. It moved at a slow pace and would sometimes stop for several minutes before continuing on its course. Eventually, the light moved out of sight, following the curve of the river. The two sat still for a while longer, his father still holding him in the cool night air. He doesn't remember much about the rest of the night. He knows that eventually sleep overcame him, the warmth and security of his father's arms dispelling any sense of unease. When he awoke to the bright summer sun peeking over the hills, his father was already packing their gear. He said this was very odd, as a hot breakfast was something of a tradition for them to share. He dutifully went about gathering his gear and packing it away. It came as quite a surprise to him when his father began walking in the direction of their vehicle instead of further down the river. It was on this walk that he heard the story of the Bluestone Rose from his father. He told of a time when the first settlers came into the region, when life was a constant struggle and danger seemingly lurked behind every tree. A young boy went missing from a homestead that was once located further downstream from where they camped. The boy's mother, Rose, searched night and day for her precious boy until she too never returned. The legend was that she still searched the river for her lost son, her own spirit unable to find rest even after all these years. It was said that 2 nights each summer, she would walk the banks of the Bluestone River, searching for her son, the light from her lantern the only visible sign of her presence. When he asked his father why they were leaving so early, the simple answer left him with chills for the rest of the day. He told him that tonight Rose would come down this side of the river on her way back, and he didn't want her to find his own son by mistake.